Today, we're going to bust a myth that many entrepreneurs hold on to, especially entrepreneurs of faith. It is a crippling myth, and you've probably said this to yourself. No one in my current audience will buy from me. Doesn't matter, you got YouTube subscribers, you're on Facebook, you're posting, you're sending emails to your list, you're making offers, or you're creating content that channels the expertise that God has given you, and you're just getting crickets. And so the thought process is, I have to go out and get clients. I've got to get buyers somewhere in the abyss. And it's just true. There are far more people who don't know who you are than people who know who you are. But here's the problem. There are people in your audience right now who would pay you money if they knew what you had to offer and if you presented that offer with value. But it's not happening. Why? We're going to look at 3 components of Christ's ministry that you could implement right now in your marketing, in your offer presentation, to get people who are just generally in your audience on the sidelines to actually buy from you. So let's look at his ministry. He started with an audience. Now, when I say an audience, there were just general people in his sphere of influence. They were not ready to follow him. There was nothing special. Isaiah 53 says there was nothing special about him that would have drawn people to him physically. So what did he do? He started speaking to people right where they were. We're talking about fishermen, tax collectors, prostitutes, sinners, everyday people, addressing their real needs. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So people were hungry, he fed them. People had physical ailments, they were blind, they were maimed, they were crippled, he healed them. People were tormented by evil spirits, he delivered them. So over time, these everyday people, they got their needs met, and they became not only his followers, but his committed disciples who are fully invested in his message, so much to the point that they would go out and get other people and grow his kingdom. So the question is, how did he do it, and how can you do the same? So here are the 3 components, and we have to have all 3 of these. Number 1, when you're making an offer, you have to offer something that solves your audience's real problem, not the surface level problem. Now, many people, I've worked with several coaches, especially in the faith-based community, purpose coaches. And so it is, I help women or kingdom entrepreneurs or men find their purpose, walk in their God-given purpose. Now, it sounds good on paper, but that's not an underlying need. That's not something that's keeping them up at night. So let's look at Jesus. Jesus identified people's real underlying needs. If we look at Matthew chapter 9, there was a paralytic who was brought to Jesus. His friends tore off the roof of Peter's house and lowered him down in front of Jesus because there were so many people in the room. And on the surface, it seemed like his biggest need was the fact that he wanted to walk. But Jesus says to him, your sins are forgiven you, which of course drew ire from the religious leaders and people on the sideline. Like, who is he to say that? But this was what he truly needed. Now, he did get physical healing, but what was really concerning him was the fact that at that time, and actually still today, the belief was, if I do something wrong, the sins that I have legitimately committed is causing God to punish me in this manner. So people look at you, you're crippled, or look at a woman who's barren and say, it's because of your sins that this has happened. So he was under the weight of this guilt and shame that was far worse than the fact that he couldn't walk. So that's the need that Jesus addressed, and that gave the man spiritual healing before actually giving him physical healing. So in the same vein, you have to understand what your audience's most pressing need is. People buy off of emotion, not off of facts. So what is the emotion? What's really keeping somebody up? So not walking in their God-given purpose, that's a surface level need. What's the real thing below that? Well, not walking in my God-given purpose means I'm spending time doing things that are not making me feel fulfilled. Maybe it's punching a clock. Maybe it's doing, surface level work for a ministry or church, but not actually doing what God has called me to do. And it's making me feel burnt out. It's costing me time with my family. It's costing me revenue because I know I could be making more money doing what God has called me to do. What is the underlying thing that you can provide relief for? So that could be through a coaching program, a course, a service, a blog, a video. When you solve a problem that they deeply feel, your audience will pay attention. Number two, you have to show them why your offer is valuable. Now, when we look at basic marketing principles, Russell Brunson has made popular the framework hook, story, offer. So that's pretty much what this is. Number one, when we looked at the what your audience, solving your audience's real problem, you hook them by appealing to their real pain. So number two, how do we show that your offer is valuable? By packaging it in a story. This is what Christ did. Christ knew that he could explain things theologically about the kingdom of heaven, but folks were not going to get that. They were not going to remember it. So he took these lofty spiritual truths and made them relevant and relatable by integrating them into powerful stories that they would understand. Like when he gave the parable of the sower, he was speaking to farmers in the audience, right? And so this drives emotion, and this allows that principle that otherwise would have been lost in the sauce to be relevant in their minds, right? So in your work, you want to clearly communicate how your product or service helps your audience achieve their underlying goals. So because, again, people buy off of emotion, you want to create relatable stories, whether you are telling a testimony of yourself, your transformation, a transformation of somebody you've worked with. Maybe you just you borrow a story. It doesn't mean that it has to be your transformation that you have brought about for somebody else. If you can package your expertise and how solving a problem or your method of solving a problem is relatable through a story, that allows people to understand and connect with the value that you bring in your offer. So it's not just a nice to have, right? It is showing that your offer is the bridge to take them from their struggle to their solution. And number three, you want to call them to action, actually inviting them to action. There's nothing worse than seeing a great hook and a great story in a post or a video, and then it just drops off. See you next time. You got to make the offer, right? You got to invite them to action. So Jesus did not presume that after performing these transformational miracles, delivering these powerful stories, that his audience would just automatically know what the next steps were. No, he said, come follow me. He gave a clear and direct invitation. He called people to take action, plain and simple. So you don't want to hesitate to make the same offer. You want to give your audience the same clarity. Spell out exactly how they can engage, invest, enroll, and encourage them to take action, right? So if you're making a YouTube video like this one, you encourage people to subscribe and click the bell for notifications. If you're doing a post for a free webinar, say click the link, sign up now. If it's for a post to buy something, let them know how to do it. Do you have financing options available? What is the urgency and scarcity behind it? We got limited number of seats. Don't lie, actually have some real urgency, some real scarcity. You have a time limit, right? And then tell them what they need to do to take action now, and show them the cost of inaction. So when Jesus talked about the cost of discipleship, right? He made it clear, hey, if you don't do it, if you don't count the cost beforehand, you will go up into battle shorthanded, right? You will not have enough resources to finish this project that you claimed you were going to do. Everyone's going to laugh at you. So you want to make it clear to your audience, what is it costing them every day they're not working with you, they're not taking your offer, in their health, their wealth, their relationships, which could be better if they work with you. Call them to action. So hopefully that's helpful to you as you start to create content, you start to craft offers for your audience, because there are people, as I said before, right now, who would happily pay you for a solution that you provide if you only had the offer and you only presented it with value, with a hook, with a story, and then calling them to action to take the offer. Hopefully this helps you look at the story and the ministry of Jesus differently in a way that's practical for you today. If you want to learn more about it, click below to join our next Create Your New Year Payday Challenge. If you go to the page, we have some free resources you can get before you buy your seat to the challenge. So we definitely want to see you. Let's dive into more biblical principles like these on how we can create irresistible, impactful offers that your audience will thank you for selling to them. Thank you for watching. See you next time. God bless.